sense, that gut feeling, and yes, even a little psychoanalysis. As we are once again together, you and I. We are once again together, you and I. Hello, Rays. How's everyone doing this evening? Okay, Jay spent a week at the lake. I got me a little buzz cut going. I hope y'all enjoy my new look. It brings out the eyes, doesn't it? So how's everybody's week gone? The weekend is upon us. And I want to get with you this evening about alienation in families. Now, I want you to stop for a minute. I want you to think about your family, your immediate family, and your extended family. And we're not talking about just today. I mean, over the years, okay, Jay's got a few years on me. I think about some of the disagreements, some of the things that maybe, well, I'll have to tell the truth. Okay, Jay could have been many times that I have been vindictive over the years. I've done things that I regret. As I've gotten older, I've gotten just a tad bit more wisdom about how to treat others. But ultimately, folks, alienation can happen in all kinds of families. And usually it stems from some sort of negative resentment, anger, disagreement. Like just for instance, your Aunt Millie over here, she said something about you and you heard about it. So from then on out, when other family members spoke with you, you didn't have anything good to say. Well, Donna Adelson took it to a different level. And she took it to a different level with no reason at all. Folks, the bottom line is this. This case has been going on for 10 years. I'm kind of new to it, but I can tell you right now, if it wouldn't have been for Donna Adelson, none of this murder would have ever occurred, and perhaps a divorce might not have even occurred. Now, I Live for Now says hello within reason. Hello, how are you? Tina Reddington, hello, y'all. What do y'all think? Y'all think OKJ's going to stay cooled off for the summer? As some of y'all remember, I know Tina remembers, I had it all shaved, a few years back. I just got tired of messing with it, folks. There ain't no look on OKJ that's going to, just nothing I can do. I'm just going to be myself and just continue to move forward to do what, y'all? To get justice through understanding. Now, Adelson Alienation. This could have been Donna, Wendy, Harvey, Charlie. If you looked at all four of those family members, who has the worst record that we can see evidence-wise of pure, just unadulterated, wanting alienation? KJ asked a while back, I'm like, well, there isn't much to talk about in terms of what happened before Wendy decided to file for divorce. Was this something that she just, had been going to her mother about every so often? And y'all know what I'm talking about. A daughter goes to her mother during her marriage and says, Mom, I just don't want to be with him anymore. Or, Mom, I'm not happy and all of that. Well, it looks like to me that after the two children were born, that's when things ratcheted up. Hello, Kathy Mama Bear. How are you this evening? Dora Pinion, Beach Lady. So I'm like, okay, did Wendy Adelson show at any time parental alienation? Keep that question in your mind. Why are we going here? Because OKJ wants to look at the whole environmental view. We already can get the bullet points of this case. We can watch trials. We can read paperwork. But let's delve into other aspects of this. What was the motive for Dan Markel's murder? I mean, everyone seems to think it all had to do with relocation and that Donna wanted her way. Because, folks, think about this. Could Harvey have been the mastermind, or Charlie Adelson the mastermind, or even Wendy the mastermind? Remember when I read the emails? Donna had told Wendy in the email, she said, I know you just want to get on with your life and be at peace. So Wendy had expressed to her mother after the ruling on the relocation that she just wanted to be at peace about things. I'm not taking up for Wendy, but in that email, it's quite clear that not only was Donna seething, wanting to win this at all costs, that she was trying to coerce Wendy to do all kinds of crazy ass stuff. But the motive, Tallahassee police and FBI investigators point, this is what law enforcement says, to the couple's sparky divorce and Wendy's wealthy family's eagerness to move the children to South Florida as the motive for the crime. Well, it would seem to me that if Wendy wanted to move, then her family was going to support her in that. Wendy didn't say, I want to stay in Tallahassee and my family's just going to start, trying to talk me into going down there. It always seemed like Wendy wanted to go back down to South Florida. So when the police and FBI say that Donna and Harvey and Charlie there were eager for her to move the children back to South Florida, it was only because of what? Because Wendy wanted that. Wendy could have shut the door on all of it, but she kept sending what? Her mother, Donna, all these nasty ass legal documents, this fight that they were having. Dan Markell called his family's exodus, and this was in his legal motions. And when he says that his family left him and all that as plundering and his worst nightmare, then you know that he was devastated, y'all. He likened Wendy and the kids leaving when he came back from the business trip. He likened it to a Visigoth-like sacking of the marital home, part of a Pearl Harbor style separation. So when he's putting that in motion, the bottom line is he was devastated, and he did not have a clue that Wendy would do this to him. And so the question has to be asked, did he see that she was unhappy before filing for divorce and all of this other stuff and leaving him? Did he see it? Was she putting on this act that everything was okay? Beach Lady says, I feel like Wendy was the princess of the family. They all needed to protect and do for her, even if Wendy didn't ask for it. Mostly from Donna, in my opinion. And Beach Lady, I agree on that. I feel like Donna is the actual linchpin in all of this. I think she is the one that got everything going. And I'm going to go through this mess, this minutia of what Wendy and Dan were going through, this legal wranglings after she filed for divorce and all of that, the history of it, and keep in mind that Donna knew exactly what was going on because her daughter was letting her know. So you've got to think, Donna was hearing all this. Donna knew about all this. Donna was seething about all this. Wendy's court documents filed by, Adelson, court documents filed by Markell said took whatever furniture and belongings she wanted for herself and the boys. No pajama bottoms, no diapers, no wipes, not even the elder son's bed remained at the house. All that was left was a crib mattress on the floor. She also took Markell's tennis racket and family jewelry and removed hundreds of thousands of dollars in cash and equities from their bank and investment accounts. For weeks, Markell said that Wendy gave no correct information on where the boys lived. He would later learn that Wendy and the children moved to her parents' Coral Springs home. This was a big no-no. Wendy should have known better. She'd just up and leave her husband. It's abandonment to leave and just go 400 miles away and not let Dan know where his children were. If she was not happy in her marriage, what the hell does that have to do with keeping the children away from their father? The bottom line is she was not thinking of those children's father when she did what she did. With the boys, the jewelry and furniture went all evidence of the once happy union. And by that time, the couple's marriage was crumbling. Court filings made on behalf of Wendy said that she's very unhappy. And I guarantee you, if she was unhappy, Donna made sure, either through phone calls, text messages, emails, we've got evidence in emails, Donna made Wendy feel like a dumbass forever marrying Dan Markell and, making Wendy feel less and less so that Wendy would listen to her mother. Her mother gaslighted her and made her feel like dog shit all the time. And so it was Donna that helped fuel this feeling that Wendy was having about her unhappiness and all this and that. Folks, the bottom line is Wendy had to have been going to her mom and saying, Dan's gone all the time. I have to take care of the kids, and I went to college and I want a career, and Dan's so popular and he's got this fabulous career and I want one too. And it just seems to me that Donna could not stand the fact that Dan Markell was as popular and well-known and successful in his career than her daughter. Denise Gray says their mother ruined her son's life and so many more innocent folks, including her grandchildren. And folks, that was another thing I wanted to bring up. When I decided I was going to try to do what I could to get some justice through understanding in this case, I had to keep in mind there is a possibility now that those boys are teenagers, they could run across this. So I have to be careful, but at the same time, I'm going to be honest. I'm going to tell what I see in my opinion. And not to mention, Ruth Markell or anybody in that family could run across this YouTube video. That was another consideration when I decided to read out Ruth Markell's book, that perhaps she would go there and say, oh, they're reading my book out loud or something to that effect. These are real people with real lives. And we all know this. We have seen it up close and personal, especially in the last case, Cresha and her family, along with other people that were victims' family members. I do want to be respectful, for sure. Edie Ruth said it all started when he left the law firm. And Edie Ruth, he left that law firm in Washington, D.C. He was making the big bucks. He was making the big bucks. It was Donna that helped Wendy pick him out on a Jewish dating site. So she thought things were going to be a certain way and that Wendy would have this life. I mean, if Dan Markell would have stayed in Washington, D.C. and had all that money, much more money than being a professor down at FSU, I don't think Donna or Wendy would have said anything. I just don't. Ruth Markell wouldn't have minded you reading her book. She is a wonderful lady. Kathy, I'm going to tell you what, the best thing I did on this channel in terms of covering this case was to read out Ruth Markell's book, because it filled in the blanks for me. It helped me to understand things not only from her point of view, but there was crucial information that shed a light on a lot of things. I mean, I could have went online, got caught up on the trials, which I have, and that would have been the end of it. But the best thing I did was read out her book. And I hope for those that come on this channel, give it a shot. Go back, look on the video list. There's 5 parts to it. OKJ's done the best I can to read it out. Folks, it really does open a person's eyes. And, for me, it helped me to get a little bit more justice through understanding. So anyway, so Wendy filed for divorce on September 10th of 2012, and it became final with a marital settlement agreement on July 31st of 2013. So think about that. September of 2012, and it took a whole year, September, October, November, December, January, February, March, April, May, June, about 10 months, 9 or 10 months for them to iron this out, just less than a year before Markel was killed. The agreement included a 50-50 custody arrangement and shared parenting guidelines. Dan Markel would have to pay Adelson $841 a month, as well as a $120,000 lump sum payment. He got the house. Investment accounts, vehicles, and other property were divided between the two. But, unfortunately, even though they ironed it out and things were done and over with, but the official end of the marriage proved to be the beginning of more vitriol, okay? Subsequent court filings showed they tussled over everything, y'all. Financial disclosures, family heirlooms, signing the boys up for soccer, snacks at McDonald's, how often they Skyped their dad, kindergarten plans. I'm sure the list could have been more. Their war was waged in back and forth court motions, peppered with personal and moral attacks. While their attorneys filed them, the couple's pedigrees were evident in the documents, which were layered dense with case law and full of venom. And that brings me back to when Donna was talking to Wendy in an email talking about, oh, he cited all this case law for this relocation and all this and that. And Wendy was a very successful attorney herself. She was very smart and articulate. So you can imagine what this must have been like for them, back and forth, back and forth. But folks, let's be clear. Wendy would not have been able to continue to, because if Dan was going to file a motion, she would have had to respond. So Wendy wouldn't have not been able to afford what she, after her divorce, you see, $120,000 don't do shit for somebody down in Florida, okay? Especially when you got two kids. She wouldn't have been able to continue to do that if it wouldn't have been for what? Donna's financial support there. And if Donna Adelson was going to give any money to her daughter to help her with her attorney fees, she was going to have a say-so in all of it. You can be damn sure of it. The real turmoil centered on where to raise the couple's children. We all know that this relocation was non-negotiable, according to Donna. Police say email evidence indicates Adelson's parents, particularly her mother, Donna Adelson, wanted her daughter to coerce Dan Markel into allowing the boys to move to South Florida. And I don't need to go through all that again, y'all. She was willing to take her own damn grandchildren over there and get them baptized in a Catholic church, and it's just a fake routine. She wouldn't have cared if the kids were in Nazi uniforms. She didn't care. All she cared about before the relocation was to be sure to just make it tough on him. And then after the judge ruled against Wendy with prejudice, in other words, you can't bring this up again, Donna was out for blood. She wanted to absolutely make Dan Markel miserable enough, playing the uncle on him to where he would let Wendy move down to South Florida. There would not have been any other way legally to do that. Donna felt like if she made Dan Markel miserable enough, and if Dan could see that his kids were being put into this faith that he himself didn't agree with, that he would give in. It would only be through Dan Markel that Dan would acquiesce and say, okay, Wendy, go ahead, move down to South Florida. And Donna just was coming up with all kinds of crazy ass ideas. A month and a half before the divorce was final, and this is like, I wish that there was more information about a year before the divorce. What was going on? We know Wendy said Dan was gone all the time. She was left with all the responsibilities of the children. She didn't get to chase her career as much as she wanted to. She was having to see her husband being so successful when she herself felt like she deserved that as well. So, that's what is a possible. I mean, I don't have 100% proof of that. It's just what's on the record. We don't really know, but folks, Dan Markel, he was stunned when he come home from that business trip. In other words, he didn't know that Wendy was going to leave him. So that equals to me that She didn't bring it up to him. I'm not happy anymore, Dan. I want to chase my career, Dan. I'm not happy. I want a divorce. If she would have told Dan she wanted a divorce or didn't want to love him anymore or anything like that, it wouldn't have shocked him for him to come home and see the house empty like that. Mary Sadler says, I think Georgia is going to get Wendy too. Yes, Mary. Georgia Kaplan. I guess that's how you say her name. Yes, I think there's a big possibility that she'll go after Wendy. It's like a domino effect. I do not believe that Donna Adelson would be sitting in jail waiting on a trial if Charlie Adelson would have not been convicted. Kathy Mama Bear says, Georgia is being very methodical in all this. I also think Wendy is next. See, that's a big possibility. So, back to this, a month and a half before the divorce was final, the Adelson's attorney asked that she and the boys be permitted to relocate to Coral Springs. Adelson argued the boys would have familiar support there because much of her extended family lived in the area. Also, she was offered a position at a South Florida law firm that offered more pay and opportunity for advancement. And when I think about that, that Donna had put in an email to Wendy, well, I've done talked to this, your potential future employer, then this is who it was. And I told them to hold off, just give us a little more time. We'll get her relocated down here. Donna was out for it. She absolutely went to her daughter's prospective future employer and said, just hold off. She'll be down here. She'll be down here. Which, y'all, that's so pathetic. Wendy could have got her own job, and perhaps Wendy did originally seek out this employment down there, and when Donna found out about it and knew that Wendy couldn't relocate, she didn't have enough confidence or faith in her daughter to do that herself, so she went over and talked to them. The Adelsons had money out the ass, and they were highly regarded in their community. So it wouldn't shock me one bit that Donna would go into this law firm, make an appointment or even show up and go in there. You know what, guys? She's having some legal issues right now. And, just give it a little more time. I've got some really good attorneys on the payroll, and we'll get her down here. It's pathetic. In the filing, Adelson appeared intent to gain majority custody of the children, saying, quote, she does not believe that a 50-50 time-sharing arrangement is in the children's best interest. The husband travels a great deal and has not been the primary caretaker of the children, unquote. But what's interesting, and I think the judge that ruled against relocation understood, Wendy knew what Dan had to do. Oh, she didn't have a damn problem. She didn't have a problem when Dan was bringing home the bacon. She knew he had to do all this stuff. She knew he had to go and speak at these different places. She didn't have a problem with it, but then she wants to turn it around when she's not happy anymore and use it against him when she knew for a long time that Dan had to do this in order to advance what? Bringing home the bacon for his family, providing them with a beautiful home and a lifestyle. I think Donna let her know that day, and she drove to the house. She could have stopped it, but wanted it to happen, in my opinion. Well, Beach Lady, it would have to be one serious coincidence that Wendy would have showed up over there an hour after that with the crime scene tape. She says on the stand at Charlie's trial, well, I just thought it was some trees or something down. Folks, it's ridiculous. That is so ridiculous, and no juror's going to believe that. She's going to drive over there, and then she says one of the reasons she was even over there was because it was her way of getting over her marriage. Hell, the whole damn time. She went, left her husband, took the kids, wouldn't tell him where he's at, and all this, where they were at or anything like that. And now, what is it? She's having second thoughts, so she's trying to get over her divorce? It seems to me she was slap happy as hell to get the hell out of Tallahassee. It's stupid. It's just stupid. But what's very ironic is it wasn't long after that a tree actually did fall on that house It was months later. The irony of it, huh? The filing noted it was always the intent of Dan Markell and Wendy Adelson, to move to South Florida because Dan, a devout Jew, wanted to live in a bigger city with a larger Jewish community than Tallahassee's. So here Wendy is, through her attorneys, filing in their response and motion that, one of the reasons that, I want to move down to South Florida is because it was part of the plan all along. Well, he had already been down to South Florida. And he had worked down there, and then he went up to Tallahassee, and he found his place within a community of people that loved and respected him. His students loved him, and he felt at home there. And Wendy was trying to make it out to be like that she was promised that she would live near her family. Well, what the hell? I mean, they lived in Washington, D.C. If he'd have stayed there and made money out the ass, the bottom line is I don't think Donna and them would have ever really caused a stink. It really comes down to this, y'all. It comes down to Donna Adelson didn't want to get on a plane and go visit her grandkids. It was inconvenient for her. I mean, for those that have kept up with this case, when they initiated the bump, it showed her walking downstairs out of her high-rise there, just walking 1 block to the children's school there. She wanted everything convenient for her. It had nothing to do with Wendy. Because, see, this is my opinion. Donna has always made Wendy feel insecure, and she gaslit the shit out of her all the time. And Wendy always felt like she had to hang on her mother's apron strings or whatever, however you want to put it. In addition, Wendy alleged that Dan made life at the law school difficult by telling her colleagues she had mental health issues and had stolen money from him. Those are 2 issues. Did Dan Markell tell other colleagues at the thing something's wrong, mental health issues, she stole money from me? Perhaps. But what the hell was he supposed to say? It wasn't like he was saying it to be mean. He probably shouldn't have aired out a little bit of his private life, but he had to give some explanation, right? I mean, here's a guy and his wife and 2 children, and everybody thinks they're the freaking Brady Bunch, happy and all this and that. He's got a reputation to keep up. He puts all the confidence in the world in his family. Everything's about his family to him. And by God, she does this, and, he's knocked off guard. I mean, he's a human being with feelings. When law enforcement got Donna at the airport, she removed her wedding rings and then took the Holocaust ring off her right hand and gave them to Harvey. Seen it on video. Wow. Gloria, we'll get to that in a minute. I think it's despicable and disgusting that Wendy would have took that ring. So she is, quote, she is divorcing the husband due to her unhappiness with him and the marriage, and she only moved out of the home because she knew that Dan would not. The filing said he simply is having difficulty accepting her decision. So Wendy wants to explain in a court of law to a judge, yes, I left Dan, but I knew he wouldn't move out. Well, why should he? He's not the one that was unhappy. She was. She didn't want to be stuck in the backwater town that she thought it was. Tallahassee was too good for Wendy. That's just the bottom line. And Dan Markell thrived there, was accepted there, was just people really thought a lot of Dan Markell and his profession. And she didn't like that. And it's so unfortunate because, folks, here's the bottom line. And this is just the way it is for me. I can only speak for myself, my husband and I. If I do something negative out of my own behaviors, it reflects on my husband. It really does. Even though he had nothing to do with it, it does, y'all, socially speaking. If I was to go out here and spend money out the ass and get us in debt, it might have felt good at the time, but all it's doing is hurting me. So the bottom line is that what a wife does, it does affect her husband and vice versa. If Wayne was to go out here and do something, It would affect me as well. I mean, people, common sense would know that it wouldn't have been his fault that I was a dumbass out here, or vice versa. But ultimately, it does not look good. Who else among Florida's political and legal elite is connected to the Adelson family? Praising of them or worse, protecting them? That's a good question. If you find out anything, please put it in the rewatch comments here. We know Dr. Ben Graber, terrible person, wrote a piece defending Donna in the Tallahassee Democrat newspaper. Yes, KCL. And I was probably, the second or third video that I did on this case. I read that out, that news article from him. He was a representative at one time, highly regarded in the community. Couldn't understand. He was the only one that came out to defend them. He'd known them for 40 plus years and all that. Well, beach lady, you be careful if you get a storm. If you're out on a houseboat, you might want to take a step off on the dry land. You never know if it's a lot of wind gusts and all of that. So anyway, so Wendy was unhappy, and she made that clear. She also gave good, pretty much, y'all, I mean, common sense, she gave good reasons why she moved out, but she didn't give a good reason at all why she would not tell Dan where the children were initially. I don't see anywhere in anything that I've looked at why that was. Yes, she finally met Dan with another couple and let him see his kids, and then she allowed the kids to go back with Dan because Ruth and her husband were coming in for a holiday. And she better be damn glad she did that, because it didn't look good. KCL says, I remember you mentioning that, Donna. KJ, the Adelsons have multiple friends in high places with clout who purportedly been protecting them. It's disgusting. Well, I'll tell you what, I'd like to see anybody else who's of any kind of reputation come out of the woodwork when we know good and damn well what Donna Adelson said in her emails with Wendy. That is disgusting, racist, bigoted crap. And anyone that will stand by the Adelson family on that, all they're doing is going to be soiling their own reps. I don't see it happening. They might be doing it in the background, but I guarantee you ain't nobody going to be funding anything. The Adelsons, they sold the Adelson Institute for Dentistry and Aesthetics. Whatever money they got, I'm sure they're paying Dan Rashbaum out the freaking ass. Donna's stupid as hell to have him because, again, just as we talked about before, y'all, if Charlie Adelson told everyone on the stand that he told his mother about the extortion, and Dan Rashbaum was his attorney, let's see what Donna, if she testifies or if Dan Rashbaum shows through cross-examination that he's sticking with that. I guarantee you that was a bald-faced lie. Donna did know about the hit, but she sure as hell would be lying through her damn teeth to say that these two freaking Latin kings and Catherine McBanawal just decided to extort them twice. Give me a break. So, after Wendy talked about being unhappy and giving her explanations and stuff, Dan Markell challenged the motion, saying it was vague, filled with rank and obvious falsehoods, and the legal analysis is fundamentally inept. And if anybody could say that in a court filing, Dan Markell could. He was at the top of his game. He was a brilliant attorney. He was a freaking professor in law school. He knew what to put in a freaking motion. And the judge understood that. I.e., Wendy didn't get her way. Dan Markell was able to keep his children in Tallahassee just so he could be their father. It wasn't no win or lose for Dan Markell. It broke his damn heart, in my opinion, that his family was split all up. And he didn't want just half 50% of the time. He wanted 100%, along with his wife Wendy, but she didn't want that. She made herself perfectly clear when she stole from him and did all that she did just to stick that freaking knife in his back and twist it around a few times. And when she stopped doing it and realized that it wasn't getting her nowhere, Donna acted on and made her continue to do it. Leon County Circuit Judge Barbara Hobbs denied Adelson's request to leave because she could not prove the relocation would be in the best interest of the boys. The parents, it was ordered, would stick to the temporary parenting schedule. According to the plan, the boys were to be with Markel. The July week, he would end up being shot in the head. And you know what? Some would say, well, KJ, if Wendy knew all about it, and the kids were with Dan Markel that week, she couldn't have known that because she would be afraid. No, Wendy could have known that the kids were at daycare during that time. And really, ultimately, let's look at it like this. What if Dan Markel decided that day that he was not going to take the kids to daycare? He was just going to stay home. Think about that. Would the hit have even happened? You would know. You would know if they had evidence that, because they already tried once and failed. If that second time the kids would have been with Dan at the time, they wouldn't have done it. They would have pointed to Wendy, not wanting the kids to be around when something like that happened. But then again, if Donna Adelson, she didn't care. Do you think she would have cared that her grandchildren were there when their father was shot in the head? She sure as hell didn't care if they were dressed up in Nazi uniforms. She sure as hell wouldn't care if those children were confused when walking into a Catholic church, being embraced by a religious body where it was all just a freaking act. It's like dropping behind enemy lines, says her Donna about that Charlie said to her. Give me a break. New evidence has been released via FOIA request, and one of them shows where Donna wrote in her planner, she said Wendy's current boyfriend, George, is unwelcoming, so she doesn't like him either. Well, I'll tell you what, Wendy Adelson, for as smart as she was and everything, her mother raised her with that domestic coordinating and not real mothering abilities. Bottom line, my view, my opinion. Right, Freedom of Information Act. So 5 months before Dan was killed on Valentine's Day, y'all, of 2014, Dan Markel went on the offense. That day, he filed a 14-page motion to enforce financial provisions of the couple's marital settlement agreement. Markel claimed that Wendy filed a false and misleading financial disclosure form that shorted her assets by more than $240,000. Now, let's stop there a minute. This isn't some kind of personal attack from Dan Markel. He's got to show proof of this. He's not going to file this in a court of law. He's a freaking law professor unless he has the goods and can prove it. He's not going to just say she shorted the thing there $240,000. He also said she raided the couple's safe deposit box, taking a 2-carat diamond ring belonging to Markel's late great aunt, a Holocaust survivor. And I couldn't help but think, when he gave Wendy that ring, to think about his aunt being a Holocaust survivor and how precious. And we're not talking about the price of the 2 carats. We're talking about everything behind it. And what he gave that to Wendy, his love, something that was a treasure in his family. And for her to take that. It's really interesting. In one of the emails between Wendy and Donna says, something to the effect of, you could care less either way about the ring or whatever. Well, if that's the case, why didn't Wendy give it back? And why did she take it in the first place? It's enough that she ripped the family apart. And them 2 little boys not getting to be with their dad except for 50% of the time. Along with them only getting to be with their mother 50% of the time. But then again, y'all, 1 out of 2 marriages in America end in divorce. We all know how this can be devastating. I've been through divorce. Some of y'all on here have been through divorce. Some of them are amicable. Some of them are nasty as all get out. But it's pathetic. What was Wendy going to do with that ring? Was she going to hawk it? Sell it? Well, hold on to it? What? Give it to one of her children would be the best case scenario. But then again, why give it to one child and the other one doesn't get it? Wendy would have ended up selling it. She did it for spite, y'all. I wouldn't be surprised if Donna told her to go do it. Wendy, and Dan Markel's filing said that Wendy was not a helpless character in this drama, and she helped herself to over $600,000 in cash, liquid equities, and other assets upon separation. And in one of the emails that Donna and Wendy, Donna says to the penny that Wendy took half. How does Donna know? And why would Dan Markel put this in a filing unless he could back it up? And I believe he could have backed it up. And just an environmental view of this, Wendy's career as an attorney, these kind of allegations don't look good for her career at all, which could be considered another motive. You know, relocation, everyone thinks, well, it's the relocation. Yes, but it was other things as well. There was a lot on the line. Donna didn't do all that damn domestic coordinating all Wendy's life, choosing this and choosing that and sending her to this school and doing this, helping her choose her husband and all that, helping her decide how to divorce Dan and how to make his life a living hell, the whole damn 9 yards. I feel so bad for Dan Markel. Her wealthy parents, Dan Markel said, placed her in a financial cocoon. And by paying her legal fees, she was able to take the most aggressive and unsubstantiated legal postures possible. Wendy Adelson's attorneys were being paid by Donna and Harvey Adelson. Period. And if they were going to do that, they were going to go for the jugular, and they wanted Wendy to. Now, let's just back up a little. What if Wendy had that? It says right here, $600,000. What if she used her own money? Would she have went so far as to do this aggressive, unsubstantiated legal posture without some kind of, advice from Donna, about all this? I just don't think Wendy would have done it like she did it without Donna saying, just as she did in her emails, why aren't you going on the offense? You need to get your attorney to go on the offense. Which would have equaled into Wendy hearing her mom say that and getting her attorney to do what? Blast Dan Markel over and over and over again. Quote, if she wanted to leave the marriage because she fell out of love, that's one thing, unquote, says Dan Markel in his filing. But she could have done so without also taking more than the necessities so that a proper and fair distribution could have immediately followed. It's enough. It's enough that she broke the family up and took the kids down to South Florida, wouldn't let Dan see them. Finally, she lets them come back and they go into court and all this and that. She's done split up the family, put the kids through all this, but now she's got to get hers now, huh? And I guarantee you, Donna's telling her, get it, Wendy, get it. Because that's what Donna was all about, the money. Wendy Adelson's attorney fired back a month later with a request to dismiss Markel's claim. In it, she called his motion a sham pleading filled with scandalous allegations. It accused Dan of paying only $50,000 of the $120,000 he owed Adelson under the terms of the settlement. And this goes back to what we talked about a few vids back. He was supposed, since he was going to stay in the home and get the home, he was supposed to get it appraised and give her half of what the house was worth. But by the time he started paying her, he started realizing that there were things that she took that were of monetary value that she didn't state on her financial disclosure agreement. And so he stopped, obviously. Why would he go and give her half of what the house is worth up front until he's had able to look through everything? And I'm sure he had a certified public accountant go through it all. But Markel wasn't done. After he wasn't done, but he also had to hear that Wendy's attorney said that Markel's pleadings only prove that he's a disgruntled former husband who cannot move past this disillusion and continues to dredge up his emotion regarding this divorce. So they're saying that Dan was so hurt and so angry that Wendy left him that he's filing all these motions. Now, don't get me wrong, y'all. He was smart enough. I don't know if any of those motions had to do with bicycles or tennis rackets or anything like that. But I guess Dan, he had every right to be upset. And I don't think that, and I don't think Dan was so inside of his emotions about all this that he couldn't see what a judge would see. In other words, for him to bring all this up, he would have thought it through that the judge is going to look at this and think it's petty. And I don't want to look like that, I'm sure that these little petty items like tennis rackets and bicycles and stuff was included with the big deal. The $600,000 and the ring and the safety deposit box. Those items, those insignificant items probably were picked out by Wendy's attorney and said, look, this is frivolous shit, But, Dan wasn't done when Wendy's attorney filed this and convinced that Wendy was limiting his time with and access to the children. On March 26 of 2014, Dan Markel had his attorney file a 16-page motion seeking to enforce parenting rules detailed in their divorce agreement. In it, amid a litany of accusations concerning the boys' day-to-day lives, Adelson's mother, Donna, was targeted. This is where shit really got real. Because Donna was in the loop all the way. She was going to finance Wendy's attorneys. She knows everything, y'all. She knew everything. And I guarantee you, two things. Number one, when Dan started saying that Wendy was doing this fraud of basically this financial disclosure agreement, and it was such a situation that Dan even said her attorney knew about it, that attorney walked away, and Wendy had to get another attorney. Yeah, damn sure Donna picked one out for her. The bottom line is when Donna saw that her daughter's career could be in jeopardy of these accusations that I am sure Dan Markel could have proven, along with the fact that Donna had to see that Dan was coming after her over these alienation type of scenarios, y'all. I do believe that Wendy and Donna for sure was slowly trying to alienate the children, make the children feel like they could be away from their father, making it seem like, it was better for those children to be with the grandmother and the mother, and that dad was not letting us eat hamburgers at McDonald's, and, because dad wants, us to have kosher meals through the religious aspects and stuff. They tried to pry into Dan Markel's faith as reasons to separate those children from their father. Think about that. Someone's religious faith was used by Donna and Wendy to try to say that those children didn't need that in their life. Who were they to say that? That Dan Markel, the way he wanted his children to be raised religiously Jewish, Orthodox or not, makes no difference. He had a right. He wanted that. Wendy went along with all that for a long time. It just shows in all kinds of evidence of their life where Wendy, she would go along with it. They would have these kosher meals that they would send the kids to preschool with. She was going along with that. It really comes down to this, y'all. When this woman wanted to divorce Dan, it wasn't about what he was doing. She just didn't want to be with him anymore. So she started looking for all kinds of things to justify the fact that she's a freaking loser, that she couldn't handle it, that ultimately Donna's getting, all riled up and ready to hire a hitman, but it was Donna. Donna's the one that helped Wendy marry him in the first damn place. Kathy Barella says the Adelsons were very selfish, wanted the grandkids all to themselves. They didn't even stop to think. I mean, it's just common sense. Unless a parent is doing something illegal or something detrimental to the child, they should be able to spend it with the dad and the mom. That's a well-rounded child. Folks, divorce happens, and it does cause problems for children of divorced parents, but it can still be salvaged in a healthy way if the parents work together. They don't have to be just because Wendy couldn't get her way to go down to South Florida, was she supposed to make Dan miserable for the rest till the kids turn 18? I mean, give me a break. Julie Wilburn says, those poor children are the victims, along with Dan's parents, of course. It's just so sad. Donna is pure evil. Kathy Barilla says, Wendy's mother picked Dan for Wendy, and Wendy was not sure she wanted to marry Dan. But I'm sure Donna's like, he's got this high dollar job in Washington, D.C. It really came down, y'all, to 400 miles. And Donna Adelson's she is going to be skewered in her trial. Georgia Cappleman is going to make sure that every one of those jurors peel back that nasty ass onion layer of Donna Adelson through her emails and all of the other stuff she did. And they're going to see just how evil and diabolical that woman was and still is to this day. So I can imagine that Dan Markel in his 16-page motion seeking to enforce parenting rules, there were things that Wendy was doing, whether Donna was telling her to do them or anything like that was undermining what Dan had foundationally structured for his two boys. First of all, ever since they were born, he was taking them through religious training, kosher meals and stuff. Everything was stripped away. It's just interesting to me that Donna was all about, they don't like lobster. They don't like hot dogs. It's just too extreme. He's so stupid to do this. And the kids, you're going to feel left out, Wendy, because you don't like to do it. But on the other hand, tell Dan, if you move down here to South Florida, that we'll put him in a good Hebrew school. You think that Hebrew school wouldn't have said the kids there would have kosher meals? That's a question, isn't it? She wanted it both ways. Donna had control from the beginning. She even hijacked the wedding and did it the way she wanted it. Yes, how absolutely disgusting that they don't serve kosher stuff at Dan Markel and Wendy's wedding. At least have 2 tables to show Dan being observed and respected. That is so pathetic. And it must have hurt him really deeply. Think about his family and the community of people that are like him in his religious beliefs. How that must have been unsettling. Donna had a suitcase packed for Charlie to travel to Koh Samui, Thailand, if after his trial he was found not guilty. Well, I'll tell you, I'm sure a lot of that KCL is going to be brought out in the trial, especially that phone call with Donna's, we're trying to find non-extradition countries. That's not, why would you want to travel to a non-extradition country for vacation? She wants to say that. She wants a juror to hear her through Dan Rashbaum or her own testimony say, we were just going to Vietnam, through Dubai. We were just going to visit. We were coming back. Well, okay. Why would you pick a non-extradition country? Why was that so important? And why in the hell would you have to get your affairs in order if you're just going on a vacay, huh? She is going to be... I just really believe Donna Adelson will take the stand, y'all. I think she thinks she can talk her way out of this. She is the domestic coordinator who knows more than anyone else. Her shit don't stink, and what she says goes. KCL says non-extradition country, and she requested an emergency visa via WhatsApp right after Charlie's conviction. Miss T said Donna lost control of her first child, not wanting her to Donna controlling everything. If everything with her other children. Kathy Mama Bear says, I want to know what else is on Charlie's phone. Donna sure did want it back now. And I'll tell you this, Kathy Mama Bear, eventually, it can't right now because the trial's coming. Eventually, you're going to hear, we're all going to hear if we're interested, after the trial, Donna Adelson's phone calls, maybe even some of them during the trial since she's been in jail. Who's she talking to? We're going to hear them eventually. They're not going to release them now. And there might be a couple of them in the trial. And it will just absolutely floor me how just venomous this woman is. Of course, we know, Donna knows that she's being recorded. We know how she was with Charlie on those phone calls. And we know how Charlie talked to Donna. They had an unnatural, somehow, code type of, they knew how to speak to one another. That's all I'm going to say about that. Kathy Barilla says, have you seen Donna's journal entries? Very revealing. No, Kathy, would you share those with OKJ? When I get off the stream, I'll look them up. I didn't know she had any. I've read the emails, and so that would be very interesting. I'll look them up if you don't want to share them. I'm sure there's probably a lot of things that could be said in the comments. Thank you for bringing that up. I'll look it up. So, amid a litany of accusation concerning the boys' day-to-day lives, Adelson's mother, Donna, was targeted by Dan. The motion calls Donna Adelson a source of parental alienation efforts. Let me repeat that. Donna was a source of parental alienation efforts. Now, the reason I entitled this channel vid here, this live stream, Adelson Alienation, is because when you think of that, you think it's from parent to parent. But think about this. Donna was Wendy's mother. She was helping to alienate Wendy from a healthy situation after the divorce. Could have been that Donna was helping alienate Wendy from Dan after they moved from Washington, D.C. down to Tallahassee. Well, actually, they were down in South Florida first, then they moved to Tallahassee. Donna could have been behaving to Wendy in ways that would alienate Wendy from her husband. And that's not unheard of. How many mother-in-laws are going to do that, to try to get their adult son or daughter alienated from their spouse? And then that spilled over in Donna wanting Wendy to help get the children alienated from their father. And what we're going to go over here eventually here, it's not too long into this, there's going to be some factors that I'm going to go over that are scientific factors of parental alienation. But what's interesting, there's 5 of them, but the 5th factor we'll never know. And the reason we will never know about the 5th factor is because Dan Markell was murdered, and those children were so young at the time that these factors were never implemented. But the other ones before that, you can see telltale signs of not only Wendy, but more so Donna helping to create parental alienation. The motion asserted that on 3 occasions, after the children spent time with Donna, the boys reported to Dan, "Grandma says you're stupid." When Dan asked why she would say that, the boys replied, "She says you're trying to take her sunshines from her." Now, we know, I know, and I'm sure anyone that's followed this case for 10 years know that Dan Markell would have never involved his children by saying his children said something that they didn't say. I just don't think that Dan Markell was like the Adelsons. I think he had integrity. I think in his mind and in his heart, if he didn't have to bring his children into it, in terms of what the children had said, he wouldn't have done it, but this was the straw that broke the camel's back for Dan Markell. This was the start of him being able to see the parental alienation starting to kick in. Because he didn't know what the emails Donna and Wendy were back and forth. And don't y'all find it interesting that we read Donna's emails back to Wendy, but we haven't read the ones Wendy sent to Donna. We just know Wendy had sent legal documents of Dan's filings to Donna because she responded to them. So, is it that in Donna's trial that some of Wendy's emails, things that Wendy said to Donna, will be brought out? Or when Donna is convicted, and I believe, in my opinion, she will, that if Wendy's arrested, those emails will be wide open for everyone to see if Wendy Adelson has to go to trial. Very interesting, is it not? KCL, you don't have to worry about mentioning another channel, and anyone, y'all don't worry about it. KJ's in no competition for nobody. Y'all know this is just us talking. This is a Zoom call as far as I'm concerned. This channel is set up for us, the Rays, to get together. This channel doesn't monetize. This channel does not care how many people subscribe to it. I know who really wants to go through this with me, and it just makes me happy that anybody would seek out their own justice through understanding, through truth, logic, common sense, and your gut feeling, and maybe just a little old crazy KJ psychoanalysis. So it's okay. There's no, the only rule I have on here is everybody be respectful to everybody. That's it. That's it. So, well, after Dan Markell was alerted to what his children had said, I'm sure that really angered him. Because it's enough that he doesn't have his family anymore. His wife is gone. His children only get 50% of time with him. And now, even though he didn't have a problem at all, never in any of his motions ever wanted to take time away from the grandparents, the banana bread stuff and all this, he was trying to keep things good and healthy. He was finally faced with the fact that when his children was going to the grandmother there, that she was starting this shit. And any father or mother, if the shoe had been on the other foot and Dan's mother, which she would never do it, but you know what, I'm just for the sake of argument, had done that, it would have stunned anybody. So as a result, Dan, among enforcement of several aspects of their parenting plan, asked the court to prohibit Donna from having unsupervised time with the boys. And folks, Donna Adelson was funding Wendy's attorneys. There ain't no way Donna didn't know. She knew. So not only, again, I'll repeat it, her daughter's career is going to be smeared through what Dan has filed, and this is going after Donna. I feel like it wasn't just about making Dan Markell miserable or trying to twist his arm through misery and torture of doing this shit behind his back and doing all this to him. It now became quite clear in Donna's whole psyche that she needed to take this problem out. And I believe she went to Charlie, her son, who was the problem solver, and he absolutely wanted to be there to be the superhero for his mom, because in my view, he had a freaking unhealthy relationship with his mama, Donna. I mean, I've got 3 sons, and I can tell you right now, I would never ask one of my sons to solve one of his siblings' problems or my problems. I wouldn't put that on their shoulders, because guess what? They got their life to live. And it's hard enough for them to do their own shit than a parent having to get them and do something for them like that. It's pathetic and it's wrong. KCL says Charlie seems to have an unhealthy relationship with his mom. Kathy says, I'm going to text her with the name, but now everyone can go see them. Okay, y'all are talking about other things here, and that's fine. I'm just glad y'all are all being able to converse. Kathy Barilla says, we don't know the evidence against Wendy. Georgia only gave us a hint at one of the hearings when she asked Wendy if she had a WhatsApp. That's very interesting. That's an app that you cannot know what it's encrypted or something to that effect. So really, could you get the evidence of that other than to say she had the WhatsApp? If Georgia Kaplan, I mean, there's already things that Wendy has said on the stand at Charlie Adelson's case where the state should have went after Wendy Adelson for perjury, but they didn't. So I guess that is a signal to me that they're going to bring that shit back up if Wendy gets arrested down the road. That's just an opinion. Gloria Fritz says, many prayers for the Markell family. Absolutely. A hearing to take up Dan's requests to, have supervised visitation with Donna, and also this other serious allegations about Wendy not reporting stuff that she should have reported, and even Dan going after Wendy's attorney was going to come up. A hearing to take up Markell's request was scheduled for May 15th of 2014, but it was continued after a request from Wendy. Now, that tells me a lot. Why, if Dan was full of crap and Dan couldn't prove it, then why would Wendy continue that? I would say that she did it because it had to be true and they had to regroup legally to figure out what they were going to do. Besides the fact that the attorney that was working with Wendy on that had to leave. Let's see, because of a conflict of interest, Kristen Adamson, Wendy's Tallahassee-based attorney, opted to withdraw as her counsel. And that's what she says, a conflict of interest. But the bottom line is that Dan did mention that attorney. And if that's considered a conflict of interest, then I guess in some ways, if he's attacking the attorney for Wendy, that Wendy the attorney couldn't stay on because it would be a conflict of interest, because whatever the attorney would guide Wendy in legally, even though Wendy's an attorney, could be biased because they were being attacked. So that's what I get out of it anyway. Wendy said she needed time to get another attorney. As a result, the Judge Hobbs would never rule on it, because, as many of you know, while that time was sitting there and those motions were pending of Dan Markell's, Dan was murdered. They couldn't do nothing else. If you see it through and see that Donna said, okay, your attorney had to leave, let's get you another one. We're going to pay for some more high-dollar attorneys here, Wendy. They had nothing else. Their backs was against the wall. There was no other alternative. Donna and Wendy Adelson knew that Dan Markell's accusations were true, and it was going to cause a problem with Wendy's career and Donna Adelson's relationship and access to those grandchildren. So, in summary, when you look at Donna's emails about all this fighting going back and forth, number one, Donna tells Wendy she knows that Wendy wants to be at peace about these things, which Donna considers a surrender. It is Donna who continues to fund this and continue. None of this stuff back and forth, this venomous talk, whether it was from Dan or Wendy, whether it was filing a motion or a response back and forth, Donna was the one that kept funding it. It was Donna that kept doing anything and all. She didn't want to give it up. Donna kept the legal filings going until Wendy was denied relocation with prejudice. And her back was against the wall because Dan trumped them by bringing up this issue about Wendy doing something illegal by filing a financial disclosure agreement that wasn't true, that was fraudulent, and Dan could prove it, and he wanted Donna to get unsupervised visitation. He had them by the balls. Donna wanted to make Dan miserable for so long, and saw it all as just a game, winning and losing. It was all about winning and losing, and winning involved getting the relocation, getting their way, and also getting the money. And didn't Wendy get that money when Dan was murdered? She got the life insurance. She got all of this stuff. And most importantly, the motion that Dan Markell filed went by the wayside. And it could have been proven. It could have been proven, and it just proves how desperate the Adelsons were out there alienating those two little boys. It was the beginning of it. They probably didn't know what was going on, but whatever they could do to hurt Dan Markell. If Dan Markell thought, look what they're doing to the boys. They're sending them over here. He even found out that they'd been going to some little preschool that was outside of the faith. He found that out. That was one of the issues. He saw what they were doing. They were doing those things not for the children's health and safety. They were doing it as bargaining chips to put Dan's arm behind his back legally and say uncle, say uncle. Even though Rashbaum Morris, defense attorneys for Donna, say the defense case may take 2 weeks alone, Rashbaum said same thing for Charlie, and the defense only put up 2 witnesses, right? Were they talking about their case, their defense case, or were they talking about the whole trial? There is a good Donna. There's a couple of good Donnas on this channel, Kathy Mama Bear. Donna Donald, you are the exact opposite of Donna Adelson. Don't think bad of your name. We love you. We love you just the way you are. Donna Donald. You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when skies are gray. You'll never know, dear Donna, how much I love you. Please don't take my sunshine away. And that's to all the Rays as well. I'm hoping that you can tell me, Donna, that you and your mother are better since getting COVID. Obviously, you must be feeling better. I've been praying for you and your mama. Hi, Cindy Arnold. Thank you, Sugar Butt Starburst, for being here. I really appreciate your patience. And I appreciate all the Rays on here who put up with OKJ going to the lake a week. I try to shoot little vids here and there to let you know how much I love you, and including you in my silly Southern life and all that. We're going to get back into it all, y'all. I'm really trying to get back into it. It's just different for me because this case is so different. And so it is that I need your help, especially the ones that have come on here that have been following this for 10 years that know a hell of a lot more than OKJ. It helps me so much. If those, just like, this whole thing about Donna's journal entries, I didn't even know those existed. So I'm going to go look. It'll fill in those spots for me. I really appreciate it. Abby says, I remember when Donna Donald read Loinfire. Priceless. Oh, Kathy Barella. This is a great community because of you and everybody else in here. Y'all been so good to me, and I really appreciate y'all allowing me to come to y'all and, your precious time and all of that. Oh, goodness. Sugar Butt Starburst says, Donna, I had double pneumonia in November. I was hospitalized. Yeah, well, Sugar Butt Starburst, you are one tough cookie. Cindy Arnold says, I'm wondering how Donna Adelson is going to show up in court. Well, I posted on the community wall, all her blonde hair now is, now I'm not making fun of women with gray hair. Y'all, this is all natural. This is gray hair. Okay, they shaved my head. So I think gray can be beautiful, okay? But she didn't look beautiful at all. And really, I want to know, Donna Adelson there, sitting in jail, is she asking for kosher meals in the jail cell, her being Jewish? Or is she going to take a sack lunch? Because if she takes a kosher meal and on top of it all, she's got to accept that Dan Rashbaum and his crew there needed to move the trial up because they want to honor their religious holiday there. It's pathetic. It's pathetic. Rita Mays Resale says, you do a good job. Just talk from the heart. Oh, thank you, Rita. You do too. All of y'all talk from the heart and help me out so much. Sydney Arnold says, are they going to dress her up as a nun? I'm Donna Adelson, and I'm going to go into the courtroom, and I am going to show everybody that I'm innocent. I'm going to get on the stand, and I'm going to tell everybody that my son Charlie is innocent and that he told me all about the extortion of the Latin kings. Give me a break, y'all. No, KJ, but word is Donna's been meeting with a Jewish rabbi's wife, the same one who supposedly met with Dan before he died. We all know that Donna being interested in Judaism is a ruse. Right. It's pathetic. I understand when it comes to religions, there is a spectrum there. Some are more orthodox, some are conservative, some are, there's a whole, I'm not saying that if you're not like Dan Markel in Judaism, then you're doing it wrong. Because everyone has a right to worship or not worship. There's people on here that I love dearly with all my heart that are agnostic and atheists. And there are other people on here that don't believe in anything that I love dearly. The bottom line is that it's what, if you don't want to believe in any religion at all, it's really your behavior. And OKJ said at the beginning of this live stream, I've said and done things in my family that I'm ashamed of, I regret it, I've asked forgiveness of it, and I've tried to make amends. And I won't do it again. But it comes down to whether you're religious or not, what's coming out of you. And Donna Adelson not caring if her grandkids dress up in Nazi outfits, and Wendy Adelson keeping a 2-carat diamond ring that belonged to a Holocaust survivor of Dan's family, it tells me everything I need to know. It's sad, it's pathetic, and it's wrong. So Adelson Alienation began after, I believe it began before the divorce, before Wendy left him and divorced him. I believe it was a slow process. It would be wrong and not common sense. Common sense says that if you're going to leave your husband, you're going to pick out things that are wrong about him. If he's doing nothing wrong, you can make up anything you want about how he lives his life that is wrong, and you can paint it as something bad and all of that. It's just, it goes on all the time. It's nothing out of the ordinary. People find all kinds of stupid ass excuses to get out of their vows and commitments. They got to have a reason to file in the court. They have to have reasons for what they're doing. Yes, it'd be easy for somebody to, depending on what state it is in their divorce laws, irreconcilable differences. Well, if they're going to say that, there's got to be something the judge can look to say, okay, why are there irreconcilable differences? If they're going to fight over anything, if it's irreconcilable differences and neither party has a problem and everything's fine and dandy, then no explanation is needed to a judge. The two parties just go their ways, Kathy Barilla says, when you don't love the person you're with, there's nothing they can do right. Exactly. That's common sense right there. That's common sense. There was nothing that OKJ could have done right when my ex-husband, decided he wanted to start screwing a 19-year-old girl from his work and get her pregnant while we were married. Okay? There was nothing I was going to be able to do. He could come up with every little mistake I ever made or thing that he didn't like about me just so he could continue to get his newer model, you know? But that's just my experience. I try not to hold on to the resentment of that. I was just talking to my son about that a few days ago. I said, son, I forgave your dad. You know, I didn't want to stay bitter. And they ended up staying together all this time. It's been years and years and years ago that it happened. And she ended up being the best thing for him. But ultimately, I'll say this, and then I'll shut up about my own personal life. They've got to look at the foundation of their relationship and know what they did. Unless they just want to live in denial. I don't have to. I know I wasn't a perfect wife, but they're going to have to deal with it. I don't. I don't have to deal with it. Oh, anytime. You go ahead anytime. Anytime you want to put on anything having to do with Gresha, you go for it, Donna Donald. Anytime. Okay, so let's get to the Adelson alienation, and then I'm going to sign off. There are 5 factors. They're scientific. It's when there are signs of potential issues with access to a child, which was what happened at the beginning. Wendy wouldn't tell Dan where the children were, but she came back and she allowed him to take the children home to see his mother and father during a holiday. It's a good time to employ the 5-factor model for determining parental alienation. And you can apply this not only with Wendy, but also think about Donna, because even though she's not Dan Markel's spouse, she is the mother-in-law. And this does happen very, very much in all kinds of scenarios. So this is the 5-factor model for determining parental alienation. To set the emotions aside for a few minutes to prioritize a scientific approach to help your child. So I thought, okay, let's look at this scientifically. You know, put our emotions aside. Y'all know I think Donna Adelson is a greedy bitch. Okay, I'm sorry. That's just the way she is. She's greedy. She's evil. She's wrong. And Wendy could have handled that situation better. And if it comes out that Wendy gets charged and there's evidence there that we can see more and not just these little red flags, KJ will have a different view as well. But the first factor is a breach in the relationship. And it's really what I'm speaking of is, let's ask these questions and apply them to Wendy and Donna in terms of how they were dealing with the children to Dan. So here are the questions. When did you first notice a change in your child's behavior or attitude towards you? So Dan Markel, from what we know, I would say that's when he heard his children tell them that grandma says you're stupid and you're trying to take the sunshines away. He had never heard his children say these derogatory things about him that someone else had said. But we don't know if Dan sensed something was wrong before that. We don't know at all what Wendy could have told the children why they're leaving the house to go down to South Florida and Daddy's not coming with them. Have there been any significant events or changes in your child's life around the time the relationship began to deteriorate? Again, these children were 2 and 4. This hadn't got to that point yet, other than the deterioration of the father-son's relationships, because he was there every day of their life. He saw them unless he was out of town or whatever. There are a lot of fathers that have to go out of town to work and all this, and that does not mean something's wrong with that relationship. There are a lot of military families where the father or the mother have to be gone for long periods of time, but those children can still be fostered through the other parent or the grandparents, a healthy relationship there. So just because Dan had to go and work and had to go on business trips doesn't make him a bad father. And the significant events is these children are taken out of their home, the home they always knew, right there in Tallahassee at that house, and taken down to South Florida. Their dad was not there. It was probably weird for them, but they were very young. Doesn't excuse it, but, you know, if they'd have been a little bit older, it might have been different. Have there been any periods where your relationship with your child improved only to deteriorate again? If so, what were the circumstances? So, for example, okay, when me and my ex-husband got a divorce, my children were kind of young. They weren't as young as these Dan Markell's two little boys, but their father would get them every other weekend, okay? So everything would be great. You know, I would have my routines. The kids would be doing great. And then his weekend would show up. The kids would go to their dad's. They would come back Sunday evening. It was like I'd have to start all over again. They were fussy. They were, you know, things just wasn't smooth. It's almost like every time they went to their dad's over that weekend, it would take me another few days to get them back on track, if that makes sense at all. So in some ways, I could understand where the children were spending half the time with Dan and half the time with Wendy, and how that transition of going back to dad's, or when dad had them going back to mom's, that might have been a little disruptive there until they could get back into a routine. So that is factor one, a breach in the relationship. And I don't think that it would have been complete. Donna planted those little seeds in those precious little minds that daddy was stupid and that daddy was trying to take the grandma's sunshines away, which is diabolically evil. It's wrong. It's pathetic. So factor two, a prior positive relationship. Can you describe your relationship with your child before the current issues began? I'm sure that Dan Markell and Wendy, when they were together, before she took off with them, that I'm sure they had their family unit. They kept things scheduled. Dan probably thought everything was fine. Everything was going accordingly, and all of that. So, you know, he wouldn't have sensed that Wendy was going to leave him beforehand, and then at the same time be shocked when it happened, right? What types of activities did you and your child enjoy together in the past? And we know that Dan Markell loved to include his children in worship and Judaism. He would take the children ever since they were very young. That's what Donna said in the email. Along with the times that Wendy would have the children at a sports where they were playing sports, and Dan would come and see them. And so they were involved in little activities such as that. Do you have any family photos, videos, or memories that highlight a positive relationship with your child? Being this is factor two, a prior positive relationship. There are plenty of photos, y'all. Even though those children were very young at the time, of Dan Markell with his children. It was said that every time he posted online, it was always something about his children and stuff. I'm sure there were all kinds of photos, and we've seen many of them online, of how proud and happy and blessed filled that Dan Markell felt about his children. And even Wendy in those photos, a lot of them, whether it was fake or not, she looked happy as well. Maybe she was keeping up, saving face there, trying to make everyone think that everything was fine and dandy with her. And then she was going and talking to her mom and saying, I'm so unhappy and blah, blah, blah. But the bottom line is that was factor two. Factor one, a breach in the relationship. Factor two, a prior positive relationship. Factor three, absence of abuse, neglect, or deficient parenting. Have there been any accusations of abuse, neglect, or poor parenting against you? How do you ensure your child's needs are met when they are in your care? And have you ever sought or received feedback about your parenting from professionals, including counselors or teachers or other professionals? Well, I'll tell you, in terms of that, as in a nutshell, there was never any kind of allegation from Wendy in any of her filings that Dan Markel was an abusive, neglectful father. Donna Adelson, obviously, in her emails was telling Wendy that Dan was trying to ruin the children because he wanted them to eat kosher meals and bringing them up in Judaism and all this and that. And Donna felt like it was extreme and that Wendy would be left out of that and all of that. So Donna thought that was abusive or that was neglectful or wrong, that Dan wanted to do that. But that's so short-sighted of her. It didn't matter what Dan Markel did. She was going to find something neglectful or wrong about him and to spoon feed Wendy, to make Wendy even more aggravated and wanting to go along with Donna's, not ideas, but Donna's financial support of these attorneys being venomous, filing these things. And obviously, Dan did get some feedback from a Judge Hobbs, where Judge Hobbs found the value of Dan Markel absolutely being of value to those children by denying Wendy relocation. So if a judge is as professional as it gets, they have to look at all environmental, social issues, the whole 9 yards. The child's welfare is paramount in a judge's eyes, and it was a paramount welfare and interest that Dan Markel at least get 50% of the time. So there you go. Absence of abuse, neglect, or deficient parenting, but yet the alienation began. Donna Adelson was absolutely trying to get Wendy to do things to involve those children, to get alienated away from Dan Markel and his influence as their father. And ultimately, I mean, really, after he's murdered, right? Changing the name from Markel to Adelson. Just forget about your dad. Just forget he exists. Oh, Wendy says, it was because we didn't feel safe. Well, she obviously, in my opinion, knew by the time her brother was convicted of murdering, hiring somebody, and Donna, her mother, being in jail waiting, having Dan murdered. Who's the bad people? Who's the bad influence? Can you provide examples of your efforts to maintain a stable and supportive environment for your child? And Dan Markel did that. He did that. He did everything right. Yes, he was fighting with his wife over stuff because she would not let it be. And I believe Wendy wanted to fight with Dan, but not as much because she wanted to fight him, but because Wendy's mother wanted her to fight him. Factor 4, evidence of favoring parents' alienation strategies. Has your child ever mentioned things that suggest they have been given misleading or false information about you by the other parent, or in this case, y'all, the grandparent? Well, like I said, Donna didn't even have enough sense to not say bad things about those children's father to them. That was hurting the children. But what was the whole purpose of that? Donna wanted to tell those children that their father was stupid and he was trying to make him the bad guy. That he's trying to take y'all away from your old grandma that loves my sunshines. She had to have known that would make the children be alienated or feel like something's negative about dad when there wasn't nothing like that before. It is abusive for Donna to have done it. I can't wait for that damn woman to spend the rest of her life in prison. She can find somebody in prison to, maybe she can get Greta, the girls 2 cells down, to get her to alienate other people in the prison so that Greta can keep from getting Donna's ass kicked or something. Wendy and Donna began to go behind Dan's back to give the couple's 2 children foods that are not part of the Jewish dietary laws. Donna was menacing when feeding the children at non-kosher diet. That is a slap in the face, KCL. Just think about that. They didn't give a rat's ass about Dan's authority as those children's father. If Dan would have done, say Wendy had something she firmly believed in, and Dan would have, and not, Wendy firmly believed that we're not going to give kosher diets, because Wendy went along with that for a while. It'd be different if from the get-go of that the first child being born, Wendy's like, no, I don't want kosher meals. But she went along with it. So she can't use that. But if Wendy had strongly believed in something and Dan tried to undermine that, holy cow. You know what I'm saying? So are there instances where the other parent has failed to inform you about important events or decisions regarding your child? And Wendy did. She enrolled the children in a program at a school that had nothing to do with what Dan, he wanted some part in the education. And in fact, that Friday when he was murdered, he had left Wendy a voicemail saying, can we meet later on because we got to make a decision by Monday about where their child was going to go to school. He was trying to be helpful. He was trying to work with her, together with her on that. And finally, evidence of child's behavior, manifestations of alienation. That never happened other than the children bringing these little small boys saying, Daddy, Grandma said that you're stupid and that you're trying to take us away from her. Anything further from that. These are the things that would have happened, and I guarantee they would have happened if Dan wouldn't have been murdered, because Donna would have still laid the hammer down and tried to make Dan Markell miserable. How does your child express their feelings about you currently? Are there expressions of dislike or hatred sudden and intense? I guarantee you, if they wouldn't have murdered Dan Markell, those children all through their young toddler, preteen, and all that, Donna would have continued to say stuff. The children would have been angry at some point, saying, Dad, you know, you're being wrong, and I want to go see my grandma, and you won't let me, and stuff like that. Well, that shit never happened because they took Dan Markell out, which, in that sense, I'm glad the children didn't have to go through all that. But they had to express to their dad, you know, Dad, why did you trying to take us away from Grandma? Or, you know, Dad, you know, Grandma says you're stupid. They had to have looked at him, and Dan could have saw the emotion on their face of how their confusion, because they were so young, they didn't understand why their grandma, who they love, would say these things. Has your child made unfounded or exaggerated complaints about your behavior or actions? Well, that will never happen because Dan Markell has been murdered. But it would have continued. Again, Donna and Wendy would have, I would say Donna mostly, through Wendy, would have continued to make Dan Markell's life a living hell. Does your child show an unjustified alignment with the other parent, defending them unconditionally? Well, what if the children had grown a little bit more and Donna kept saying these things to the children and they took the grandma's side over their own father? How hurtful would have that been? It ain't like Dan Markell could have changed their minds. All he could have done is say, you know, that's not true. I love you. He can't make a child, you know, his children be loyal to him, especially when the grandmother is filling their head full of shit. Have you noticed your child rejecting extended family members or friends associated with you? Well, I mean, now that they don't have the Markell last name, and because Wendy and Donna and the rest of the Adelsons there alienated those two little boys, who are now teenagers now, away from Ruth Markell, her husband, and their extended family, that's going to be a day of reckoning. One of these days, I believe it, those, I call them Markell boys. I don't give a rat's ass if their last name are Adelson or not. They're going to one day, they're going to look back on all this and they're going to see who did what. And it's a damn shame that the Markells have to be without their grandchildren. They fought and fought, and they will always fight for their grandchildren. Does your child seem to have difficulty recalling positive experiences or interactions they have with you? Well, they won't know because they were so young when their dad was murdered. chances of them remembering their dad and all the things. They'll have to look at pictures and wonder, when he was holding them in his arms. The bottom line is Donna Adelson is a true family alienator. And Wendy did not help it. And folks, ultimately, when it comes to divorce, those situations happen between spouses. They try to pit, there's some divorces that go off without a hitch, and both parents are smart enough and caring enough and loving enough to understand that they shouldn't degrade the other partner. But y'all know as well as I do, this would have went on for a while. I don't think Wendy necessarily had any benefit to continue to dog out Dan Markel because of her own career, knowing that Dan Markel was in such high standing in the legal profession, not just in Florida, but all over the country and the world. He'd been a lot of places, and he accomplished so much. And just think, if he still was around today, how enriching those children would have learned from their brilliant father. Think about what Wendy and Donna and the Adelson clan there denied those boys. Those who knew Dan said his two boys were the most important thing to Dan. He loved them deeply. He wouldn't talk on the phone when he was with his boys so he could be present with them, says KCL. Exactly. That's what Ruth Markel wrote in her book. She said she'd get on the phone with Dan, or not get on the phone with him, but she'd be in the car and on the phone at other times. But she'd be in the car or on the phone, and he'd say, "Oh, their song's coming up. Just be quiet for a minute." He just loved and adored his children. Yes. Thank you, moderators. There are people that come on this channel that they don't know what they're doing here, other than they just want attention, But anyway, so in terms and summary of it all, and these are the things I'm learning, and I'm sure that people that have listened and know the evidence and the trial testimonies and all the things of this 10 years, a lot better than KJ. This is just KJ demonstrating what I'm learning so far. The fact remains that Donna and Wendy, and I believe it was through the prompting of Donna because she was paying Wendy's legal bills, wanted to say so and how Wendy would attack Dan. And the bottom line is Donna's going to have a trial here on September the 17th. Jury selection starts. And when she goes to trial and the state lays out their case, they're going to show the jury just how evil and diabolical Donna Adelson really is. And, the bottom line is that those boys, I believe one day they'll know the truth. They'll know the truth. Some say Wendy moved to Austin, Texas because she had some relatives near there with the last name of Mintz that could be near the boys in the event of her arrest. Not sure if that is true or not. Yeah, I've heard the same thing. And I also heard that she's had a tough go at it. That she's not going to really get advancement the way she wanted it. The way that Donna and Harvey and Charlie wanted for her. Because of all of this. Thank you, Miss T. You're awesome too. Kathy Barilla says, time flies when we're having fun. Well, I love you all. Leave your comments. Tell me what you think about Donna and Wendy and in terms of the alienating part. Regardless, because the boys were 2 and 4. Maybe they how much damage was actually done, right? How much damage was actually done? It really comes down to this. Whether the children thought they were being alienated from their dad or not makes no difference. The fact is, a grandmother and the mother of those 2 little boys did the unthinkable. Especially Donna, hiring these hitmen with the help of Charlie, her son. She's going down. Donna Donald says Wendy should be feeling bad, but not because everyone ruined her career. No, she ruined her own career. Because ultimately what it comes down to is if she would have just done things, I mean, if she wanted a divorce, that didn't make her a bad woman, a bad wife, or a bad mother. She could have done it in a more healthy way, but she didn't. But then again, her mother was not really a mother. Her domestic coordinator raised her. Wendy moving those two small boys to live in a multi-story condo in South Beach, Miami, Florida, so she could enjoy the nightlife. Not the best life for kids. Seems like selfishness on Wendy's part. How do you live with yourself after killing a loving father? What did they accomplish? Says Kathy Barella. She did, Gloria Fritz. She ruined her own life. I mean, there are a lot of people, and I'm included, that's been through divorce. And make no mistake, y'all, my divorce was very nasty. The judge had my ex-husband stand up in court, and he said, "You've got 2 children. What are you doing getting another girl pregnant?" And he laid the hammer down on him. I took him to the cleaners. It was nasty. And ever since the judge, hit his wallet like that, it wasn't like me. It was the judge hitting the wallet. Him and his new woman there were venomous toward me ever since. You hit a man's wallet, they take it personal. All I wanted to do was raise my children, get some help from their father. Since he wanted to go on to some other strange, nasty woman. Back then, now maybe she's not like that now, God forgive me, but back then, she knew he was married, so. KCL says, KJ sounds like karma. Yeah, definitely. But think about it like this, KCL. If he wouldn't have done that crazy ass wrong thing to OKJ, I would have never met Mr. Wayne, and he is the love of my life. And maybe, just maybe one day, OKJ will be a grandmother. And being a grandmother, I know good and darn well that I would never, ever, I don't care what the situation is, I would never degrade either parent to my grandchildren. It would be wrong. It would hurt them. Maybe Donna thought they're 2 and 4. They don't really understand. Maybe they'll get a little confused, but they'll be a little confused when they baptize them in the church, or maybe they're a little confused because I think their dad is stupid, but they won't remember it. I guarantee you, as they grow up, they hear back through all of this. It's on the record. It's all over social media, the news, everything. They're going to know how much their grandmother really loved them. She didn't love them. She didn't. To say those things and to hire someone to murder their father, give me a break. So thank y'all all for being here. I love you all. Leave your comments of anything that you might have seen. I hope y'all have a great weekend. We'll get back together real soon. Thank y'all again for everything. I love you all. Who knows? Who knows what's going to happen next? KJ's trying to get into character with Donna Adelson. Will she come about in another skit? Huh? I want to see a smile. I love you all. And keep on looking.